All right, everybody. So today we have very exciting session, and this is going to be a one-on-one, very interactive session by Dr. Shaurya. So welcome, Dr. Shaurya. Good morning to you. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. I'm really glad to be here. I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
I'm super great. So it's a evening time in India, and we have students around the India, like not India, basically from the globe, especially from US, Pakistan, India, some part of Caribbean islands, and others, right?
Perfect.
So here you'll be getting an opportunity to interact with a lot of students with, I would say, different mindsets, different questions, maybe an old grad, maybe an unqualified last year, and with your experience, you had been into this journey from the last couple of years, so you know how this entire venture done, and how would you give them a motivation session by because just for couple of weeks are pending for this entire math season, right?
Exactly.
So this today's session, students, it's basically based on what program director looks in you while selecting you for the interviews, right? So over to you, doctor. I want you to have a brief introduction and moving forward about what you have, the entire exposure about this question which we had quoted out.
Uh, all right. I hope you guys are doing really well. It's a pleasure to be here today. So, a brief introduction about myself. My name is Dr. Shaurya Mir. I'm from India. Uh, I did my med school in the Philippines and then I came here to the US. I'm a PGY1 internal medicine resident in Texas Tech. Uh, Currently, as you guys know, so it's the application season is like right at the door, right? Because you just have a couple of days before you have to finally finalize everything, certify and submit. So before I go any further, can you guys let me know how many of you are applying this year? Just a brief idea. Can you just type it in on the chat box? Okay. So a fair share of you guys are applying for this year. A couple of you who will be applying next year or in the subsequent years. So at this point, my recommendation for those of you who are applying this year will be different from those of you who are applying for next year, right? So uh, to first come to the question of like what the program director looks in your application before giving you the interview. So we all know that there are some facets of your application. To begin with, there are your step scores. Your step one is now pass and fail. So step two, it's very important these days. That's basically your academics. Step 2 and your MSP. MSP holds your records from your medical school, your clerkship scores, your class ranking, class standing, everything else. So that's part of your academics. Okay. The other thing is your year of graduation. We all know that for medical students outside the United States, we take some time to, prepare for all the exams, do the United States clinical experience. Sometimes it takes a couple of years before you're ready to apply. So you might be a little far away from your year of graduation. In that case, they want to see the continuity of your education, continuity of your clinical experience. So, what you have learned in medical school, they want to see that you have been applying that in the subsequent years after your graduation. So, that can either be in clinical experience back in your home country or back in the United States, whichever be that may. There's also the other thing, volunteering and research experience. So all of these, your program director looks at it. We'll go through every one of this uh, one after another, and I'm also going to show you NRMP data on this. So we'll discuss everything later, but I'm just giving a brief idea what we're going to talk about today. Uh, so other than that, of course, your step three is another thing. So how many of you have already taken your step 3? Now, of all the things that I have mentioned so far, according to you guys, which one is the most important thing that you think? Like, I want to know your perception before I start. Which one is the single most important thing that the program directors take a look at before giving you an interview? Okay, step 2 score, MSP and USC. Okay, anyone else? Okay, so you guys are leaning towards the score and the MSP, right? Letter of recommendation, yes, also very important. How about your personal statement? How about the way you curate your ERA CV? Is that important, do you think? Are those one of the top 3 factors which the program director uses to give you an interview? Okay, you think yes. Okay, so let me share my screen. Now, this is a charting outcome uh, by the PD survey. Now, what NRMP does, NRMP asks all the program directors their perceptions about the importance of your application, the things in your application, and then they created this file. Now, not every one of the program directors will participate in this, and but it's a rough idea, rough estimate you can use to make your application better. So let's go through it. Okay, so this is, you can just see the numbers. If you see the internal medicine, they send like around 1126 surveys, 147 respondents. So that's a 13% response rate. But so 13% of all the programs, if they give you some idea, you can like deduce what kind of things the program directors look at for the rest of the program as well. So it's a very useful tool in my opinion. Okay, so we don't need this. So basically, so person received holistic review. So around 45.5% applications that get sent to the program, around half of them, almost half of them received a holistic review, and 35.5% they are rejected based on the standardized screen. What does that mean? So if you have low scores, if you have, let's say, an attempt in your step exams, which are basically red flags for your application, right? So sometimes programs would use filters to rule out some of the applications because they have large volume of applications coming in for them to review, right? So let's say they receive 3,000, 4,000 applications. Now they cannot receive all of them. So what do? They apply a filter. They weed out, let's say, participants like applicants with low scores or applicants with, let's say, an attempt on your exams. All right. But if you are able to cross that filter, you surely will get a holistic review. Okay. Now, so percentages of program interviewing candidates by application type. So if you see here, non-US IMG, around 21% of the time, like 21% of the programs, they will like more often interview non-US IMG. Around 50% they seldom tend to invite them, and there's around 30% they don't invite non-US IMGs. So it's that brings us to another important aspect of the application. Do not blindly apply to every single program that you find on the ERAS, right? So just make sure you go through their website, you see their cutoffs. Sometimes they'll mention that they need at least 230 on your step 2 before they will even consider your application. So If you have scores lower than 230, do not apply for them because you will be screened out, you will be filtered out, right? So it's always good thing to go to the program website. Do not rely on Residency Explorer. I know a lot of people use Residency Explorer for this, but then sometimes they have contradictory data with the program website. So make sure you do your research, spend time on it, and make sure you curate your program list very carefully. Okay? Okay. So again, like if you see, uh, for most portion of the time in case of IMGs, step one, 97% of the time they require a pass. Uh, for step 2 CK, step 2 CS is not there anymore, so we'll not discuss this. So step 2 CK, 37 of the time they requires a pass. However, 36% of the times they require a target score. Now, there's a caveat to this as well. Now, sometimes the program will mention in the on their website that they require a 230, they require a 240. But if you take a look at the real-time applicants who are getting the interview, sometimes they're getting like more than 260 or like 250s. So scores obviously is very important. If you have really good scores, uh, and if you work well on your application, including your personal statement, including your ERAS, you'll surely get many interviews. Now, in the recent years, what I've seen the trend is sometimes people who score really high, they they lack off. I mean, they kind of slack off on their work of the application. So they would like write their personal statement in a couple of days. They will like make a CV and won't get it reviewed. So they're confident that their score will grab their interviews, but that's not always the case. If you have like scores in 230s, 240s, but then you have got a really compelling personal statement, your CV is really well written, you have like diversity of clinical experience or research experience, you're bound to get more interviews than the person who has like really high score but did not work well on the interview. So you understand, right? How important it is to make your the whole application really well. And we also know that almost 50% of the programs they review your applications holistically. So again, that brings me back to this advice: do not slack off. This is the time of the application season. It is the only time you have got for yourself to work on your application, work on your interviewing skills. So make sure you do that. Otherwise, you're just putting you down yourself for trouble. Okay? So we don't need this. This is for the DO. Okay. Now, ranking is also the same. Ranking most importantly relies on how the interview went. Of course, there are certain aspects of your application that helps the program director decide how to rank you. But the most important at the top would be your uh, interview performance, your interpersonal skills, how friendly you seem in the interview, how your values align with the values of the program, if they perceive you as a neurotic person or someone they feel that they won't be able to work with in the long run, because you'll be in the program for 3 years, right? So you have to be someone whose vibe matches the program. So yeah, interview is the performance during your interview is a very important factor in the ranking. But in order to get that interview, you have to work on your application. So there are two caveats here. Okay, go to the next one. Okay, now this is the most important slides. Okay, so frequency and mean importance rating of each factor considered in deciding who to interview. Now, most of you said step scores, USCE, but if you see the program director's response, you'll see that medical student performance evaluation or the dean's letter is at the top, like almost 85%. Okay, so now why is that? Am I seeing any?
Doctor, you can move further. We can take the questions one on one later on.
Okay, yeah, sure. I just saw a lot of comments. Okay, I'll continue. So now why the MSP is important? So now you're coming from a med school, let's say uh, some corner of India. The program director does not know how good is your medical school. How they know that you're a good student? They will take a look at your MSP. Now, MSP, they have your class standings, they have your evaluations. If you did an internship in internal medicine, uh, internal medicine rotation is part of your internship, right? And you'll get a score for that. You'll get evaluation for that. So they will take a look at that evaluation and then they will know how well did you do. Now, the thing is that let's say you got an A plus in your internal medicine rotation. So the program director does not know how many students in your class did get the same A plus. So sometimes that's difficult for them to assess. So then they will rely on your class standing. Let's say you're at the top of your class, like you're in the top three in a class of 200, class of 300. So that tells a lot more about you, like how academically well accomplished you are, other than anything, right? So that's why make sure when you request for your MSP, make sure your medical school writes in a very well mannered, like well designed fashion, like they follow a standardized template. If your performances during your med school they are good, that definitely helps you. But if you have like a failing grade in one of the exams in your med school, that definitely puts you in a bad spot, right? In terms of interview selection. Okay. So the next is your letter of recommendation specialty. Now, LORs, by this time, I'm guessing most of you have already gotten your LORs, so you cannot really change it. But however, I'd still like to talk about it for those who are applying for next year or the subsequent years. So, letter of recommendations, my first advice for you would be do not use self-written LORs, okay? Because the program directors know, they know some of the rotations you do. They will ask you to write your own LORs, and you know what, they even know the programs. So last year when I was interviewing, one of my friends got an interview from a certain program. I wouldn't mention the name of the program, but then one of the interviewers directly asked my friend that if he did write the LORs by himself. And then he said, we were in your spot as well. I know how the LOR system works, so make sure you do not use self-written LORs. Ask your preceptor to give you an LOR. If that takes time, that's fine. Apply for your LOR early, but do not use self-written LORs, guys, okay? That's a very big red flag in some programs, not all, but some programs. Okay, now what can you do to get the most out of your LORs? So whenever you start a rotation, you work with a physician for 1 week. After 1 week, ask for feedback. Okay, uh, contemplate on what you can do more to help the physician, to demonstrate your own medical knowledge. Uh, Step up and you know I'll give you an example. So when I was doing my rotation last year, it was in one of the outpatient clinics. So I did not have access to Epic at that time, but what I offered the physician was to let me do a couple of the notes for her, and she one day gave me access to her Epic account so that I could do the notes. And once I did the notes, she went through it. She was very happy with it. And then after that, she let me do like almost 50% of the notes every day. So she knew that I'd be really great at, doing the documentations. I always offered to look something up on up to date and present a topic to the preceptor, so that then she knows that I was curious about my patients and their medical conditions. I'm willing to learn. So all of these things, these will go to your LORs, right? So uh, that shows commitment to medicine, commitment to whatever specialty you're applying for, and that really helps when you have all these good things in your letter of recommendation, right? Okay. Now, the third thing is grades and required clerkships. Now, it is different from USMDs and it is different from IMGs. Most of the time, this grade in required clerkship, it will be mentioned in the MSP itself, so it's not a different thing from for us. Okay. Again, I spoke about the class ranking. If you're at the top of your class, top three, top five, that'll put a very good impression of you to the program director. So that definitely helps you. Grades and clerkship in desired specialty. If you're applying for internal medicine, if you have good scores, good grades in your desired specialty, that definitely helps. Audition electives, rotation within your department. Now, for international medical graduates, this becomes the United States clinical experience. So let's say you have graduated 5 years ago, in 2020. The program director wants to know what you have been doing for the past 5 years. You either have been clinically active, working in your country, you either had some interspersed uh, United States clinical experience in this past 5 years. You either worked on research projects as a research assistant in somewhere in the United States. So all of these things you should be able to explain during the interview, and you have to mention these in your CV, because when you put down the experiences, they will want to know what you have done in the past 5 years. They don't want someone who has been clinically detached for the past years. They've forgotten all the medical knowledge. They have lost touch with their skills. So they don't want that, right? So make sure whatever you're doing, you're clinically active, you're doing something, and of course, you're working on yourself. Okay. Personal prior knowledge of the applicant. So let's say you applying to a program where you have done a rotation. You've done a rotation with one of the faculties in the program. There you worked with the residents get to know you. They know how you are as a person. They know that they will be able to work with you. You're easygoing, you're like easy to hang out with. They'll prefer someone like that, right? Over some unknown poster boy with like scores in 270s, 280s, 50 publications. They would prefer a person who they know personally, right? So how you can do is how you can do that is like try to get more United States clinical experience in let's say programs like residency training programs. Most of them do not allow it, but I'll give you a tip here. Let's say a program, they are affiliated to a hospital. Let's say program A is affiliated to State General Hospital. Okay. Now, if you email someone in the program A asking for a rotation, they will say our program does not sponsor any rotations or observerships. So you cannot do anything about that. But what you can try to do is figure out which hospital the program is using as their training hospital, right? So email someone in that hospital and hope that you get a rotation in that hospital. So if you do that, you'll get to work with the residents. Even though you're not part of the program, you're still working with them. You're still seeing them. Sometimes you see the faculties and the program directors. So that definitely helps you, right? So if you still have time, you can do that. Or those who are applying next year, you can try to do this, okay? Okay. Now, consistency of grades. So again, this comes in your MSP that you you've been getting good grades throughout all of your med school years. So you know your preclinical subjects, clinical subjects, all of that. Awards, special honors, and clinical clerkships. If you have it, it helps, but it's not that important. Most of us will not have this gold humanism honor society, like any other society, alpha omega alpha memberships. We will not have it, so it does not really matter for us. But if you have it, that's great. uh, Evidence of continuous medical education without gaps. So I already mentioned this, right? So if you taken some time off, let's say you took 6 months time to write your step two. So ideally, I would not recommend that. I would say like get some clinical experience during that time, study alongside that, uh, so that they will know that you have no gaps. Why now the program directors or the like people in your program, they want this because when you're doing your residency training, you're working every day, right? You're working long hours, it's very hectic, and along with that you'll have to study for your step 3 if you have not already taken it. Along with that, you have to study for your in training exams that they have. uh, so all of this, you will not have dedicated time off to study. So they want to know that you can multitask, right? You can do your work, you can make some time to study, you can balance everything. If you're able to do that, that's perfect. You're a great candidate. Okay? Okay. Uh, Awards are special honors. If you have them, that helps, but otherwise, it's fine. It embellishes your CV, it makes it look good, but other than it's fine. Accreditation status of applicant's medical school. So again, if your medical school is not accredited, then they will not probably give you an interview, and you'll have problems with ECFMG certification as well. Ability to work legally in the US without a visa. So this is a very important aspect, especially nowadays. Uh, Unfortunately, last year a lot of the programs had to, give deferrals to their candidates who did not get a visa. This year, a lot of applicants did not get a visa. So next year, it will be even more difficult for you guys to, uh, get into a program because now they're skeptical. Now they don't know uh, whether if they match you, you'll be able to get into the program or not. But on the other hand, a lot of hospitals in the United States, a lot of places outside the metro cities, they are run by the non-USMGs, right? Uh, so if they do not have enough non-US IMGs, the United States healthcare will collapse by itself. So that's another thing that they have to consider. So if you have a visa, if you have a green card, that definitely helps. I wouldn't say that does not help, but if you're requiring visa, it's difficult, but then know that they need doctors, they need us, right? Uh, so yeah, go ahead and work for it. So that's my recommendation. Visa status is the same thing. Now, graduates of highly regarded medical or osteopathic school. So let's say if someone is from India and like he's a AIMS Delhi graduate, or like someone from Pakistan, he's from Aga Khan, he's from Dow. So a lot of previous alumni are here in the United States from those medical schools, and they know that these are great medical schools. They have like great curriculum, great training, so they won't second guess the applicants. But For me, I come from a medical school which is relatively new. I was one of the first person in the program in my medical school to apply to residency program in the United States. They did not have anyone like from the past, so they didn't know about my school. So they had to rely on other factors, right? My the rest of my application. But if you're from like a good school, that definitely helps. But at this point, I'm sure you cannot change that as well. Okay. Away rotations in your specialty or another institution, again, it doesn't matter for the non-US IMGs. Applicant was flagged with match violation by the NRMP. Now, if you have something like this, you can hope that you will not get matched anytime ever, right? So I hope that you're following all the guidelines, follow the communication things like do not reach out to programs like in times of soap, do not reach out to programs when you're not supposed to do all of that. Like follow the rules because back home in India and like in Asian countries, we tend to not follow the rules always, and there are a lot of leeway. It's not like that here in the United States. You have to always follow the rules. If you have a single violation, you'll be barred from the match. So I'll tell you a small story here. So one of the person I know, he was doing a research position, and in a very reputable institution in the US in California. Okay, so what happened? One day he was going through the data, and he misspelled a name, and he by mistake opened another patient's chart and like reviewed the data. So now that is a major HIPAA violation, right? If it was back home, they would like shove it away or like just swipe it under the rug. But here in the United States, they deported him. They cancelled his B1, B2 visa. Uh, I'm sorry, his J1 visa, and they made him ineligible for any further kind of visa. So that was the end of his dream to become a physician in the United States. So my advice, when you do rotations, when you're in the United States, follow every single rule, okay? Do not take it for granted. You're here, you're very lucky to be here, and do not exploit it. Be very careful, okay? This can happen to anyone, so I don't want you guys to go through this, all right? Okay. Uh, Sigma Sigma Phi again, not for us. Awards and special honors. If you have like some awards on medical school, that definitely helps. And how applicants medical school handle virtual rotations. Again, it's only 5%, so not so much for us. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Okay, now here we talked about who to interview. Here is another list where you can see like who to rank, what factors help them decide who to rank. At the top, interpersonal skills. See how you do in the interview, that speaks a lot about how you're gonna be ranked at the program. Interactions with faculty during interview, and visit if you're like doing in person in that case. But yeah, so the how well you interact with the people there, your personality, all of that matters, right? Feedback from current residents. So sometimes in the interviews you'll get to talk to the residents, right? So let's say a resident uh, in the Q&A, they really like you. They like talking to you, they like your story, and they like where you come from. So they can go to their program director and mention that, see, I spoke to this candidate on this day. He or she really impressed me. I think he'll be a really good fit for our program. And the program director will obviously listen to the residents, because ultimately this person will be working with the residents and the faculty, right? So their values count so much. So see, almost like 76% of the response said that feedback from current residents value a lot, like matter a lot. Interactions with house staff during interviews. Okay, again, MSP comes here. Your MSP is very important. This is like very underrated, and people do not go through this, like underappreciate this, but know that it's very important. Class ranking is very important. Grades in your medical school is very important. All of that. Uh, but now my question is, those who mention like scores and your step two scores, uh, do you see them here? No, right? You have your grades in med school, and of course, like initially when they're gonna give you interview, your scores do matter, but after you have gotten the interview, or like once they have decided they're gonna interview, the rest of your application matters. Okay, so your score will take you to places. Now it's up to you, what do you do with that, like what do you do with the opportunity? Okay, so no gaps, again, awards, highly regarded medical school, all of that. So you got an idea, like the most important ones you got an idea of, and now you know like what to improve on. Like now, those of you who are applying this year, this is a very good time to improve your interpersonal skills. Talk to people, get a feedback from how you're presenting yourself, and of course, like practice interviewing, because ultimately it's gonna give you that seat or take it away from you. Okay, so do not take this lightly. I know that working on the application is very stressful, and once you're like certified and submitted, you just want to relax. You just want to, slack off and rest and like refresh your mind. But do that. I won't say that don't do that, but like also get back to your, working on your interviews, sending letter of interest to the programs that you like, uh, reaching out to your connections, that definitely help, networking, all of that. So this is not the time to slack off, guys. Okay, you can slack off after your match in March.